Howdy, folks. I'm speaking very quietly because I am right next to a very turned up microphone. This is Hard Rock University live edition, and nobody's on camera right now because everybody is screwing off elsewhere.
No, because we're doing all kinds of crazy important shit.
Yeah, right. No wage slave, no big brother, unless y'all pay me.
With some of those guys, that might not be good.
Oh, no, and no crypto either. The goddess only accepts silver, people. We all know this.
Okay.
Go get on camera, Bear, and start
I'm
talking.
getting there. So I have this here, so that it's about the right height. Ooh. Am I on there?
Yeah.
Howdy, folks. Today we got a real special edition of Hard Rock University. It's likely to be a bit chaotic at times because we got two guests over here. We've got Brandon and Jared.
Come over this way.
Hello,
everyone.
And they're here because they are principals in a mine down in Central America that has rather primitive extraction equipment right now. And they're uneducated in extractive metallurgy. They just kind of stumbled into this thing. And so they want me to teach them some of the basics. Now,
Yes, please.
I can't turn them into, MS metallurgists in a week. They're going to be here a week. We're going to do all kinds of things right now. We have a bead cupelling in the furnace outside. And we were just looking at some of this. These are tailings. And what was the mesh sizes, Brandon?
We got, I said average, you said it was 7,000.
7,000. So, 0.007. 80 mesh. What did I say?
80 to 100.
And,
2,000 was, I think, the smallest you said.
okay, so 2,000 is 270 mesh.
Okay. And 1,500.
1,000. Okay, so the largest ones are about 35 mesh. Okay? So that gives you an idea of what you got to do. Again, we've now stopped guessing and started measuring.
Correct.
And that's the important thing. Okay? So it's a reasonably good grind. This is out of a ball mill, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now, one of the important principles in extractive metallurgy is you're trying to separate. It doesn't matter which way you separate. If you can come up with a method that gives you 100% barren crap out one end, hey, that's good. Okay? People tend to forget and focus on, I want the gold to be here. Don't worry too much about it. If you can get rid of 50% of the crap easily, cheaply, and safely, go for it. Then you got half the stuff to work on the more complicated things. Okay? What I want to do right now is I want to do a hand pan on this. This will tell us, first of all, can I get a rough grade? In theory, if things are working great, I shouldn't be able to pan any free gold out of this. Because this has been over tables, so it's been gravity separated. Looking at the videos, looked like it was doing a reasonably good job. Unfortunately, you're putting the middlings in with the tailings.
Right.
So there very well may be some stuff here. One thing you could do is take your tables and send the middlings to one settling pond, your tailings to another. Yeah. See, that's real simple. It's a piece of cake. If your tailings themselves are barren, then get them the hell out of your way.
Right.
If your middlings have something valuable in them, stockpile them separately. Again, anything that gives you a clean separation should be considered.
Okay.
Since you're already making that, all you have to do is dig another hole in the ground.
Right.
Yeah, piece of cake.
Yeah.
Okay? So, what I do in my hand panning, I always use the same size container. Okay? This is good, stout, never gives me a problem, and it's about a 1 kilogram sand. Obviously, we've already measured these tailings, and they've got about 5% moisture content. As you can see, they can compress and this and that. So this is a rough test. It's not quantitative, it's qualitative. Okay? So now, I'm going to set up my panning tubs. And while I'm panning, these guys are going to be looking over my shoulder. Can everyone see that on the camera, little one?
Yes, they can, but I'm coming over here to just like someone.
Now, see where these have markings on them?
Yes.
Okay. L stands for low grade. If your panning concentrates with a pan, then you try and pan tailings, the chances of cross-contamination are almost 100%.
Yep.
You're probably going to get false reading.
Okay.
So you want to keep the stuff for tailings separate. Stuff for raw ore separate. Okay? And if you see a really high number, then you want to clean that pan out 3 times. Okay? So, just for aesthetics. A little OCD, no big deal. This is my coarse tub, my finished tub. Good. I would expect very little clays and stuff in this because it looks pretty washed. That stuff we were looking at in the microscope, to me, it looks like crystalline quartz. Okay.
You still got enough light to see, Bear?
Not really. Point it down.
Maybe that'll work.
It's
better.
important to show these people what's going on. They can see a whole lot more than the audience can at this point. Now,
You want me to bring a camera over?
No, that looks good up here.
Put your finger in there, what happens?
All mixed.
Just go straight to the bottom of the pan. Just jam it in there. Plump.
You
Okay? That means we've got liquefaction. For this fine material, that's not unusual. Put over here, you can see it's trying to build up right in that corner.
Yep.
See? That's because this, because of the way I'm swinging it,
And down.
it's got more distance than this. See, this is sitting almost entirely still.
Yep.
Now, any gold, about 500 mesh, is on the bottom of that pan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
That fence.
That's just in shape.
Now, what I'm going to do here, the gold is on the bottom of the pan. You can work with tables, so you'll understand this better than a lot of people who pan coarse gold.
Yes.
You can't travel across the bottom of that pan very quickly.
Correct.
So if I go like this, it barely had time to get anywhere before I already stopped. I go ahead, and again, this way, anything on this lip here is going to get back down.
Come back down.
Okay. Smoothly and fairly briskly. Get that down. Okay. That's stuck there.
Keep your voice up there.
This means I've got a sharp groove on this side only. What, little one?
Keep your voice up.
Okay. Now, a little bit of lack of liquid there. Always, especially when you're starting, always test. Okay? Different materials behave differently. You haven't developed the feel yet. Right. So just check.
Okay.
That's all you got to do. Your fingers should go right to the bottom. Remember how much we started with?
Yeah.
Okay, what was that, 3 passes, and I'm down to 20% maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing. Then just stop. Bring it back.
Okay.
I'm going to take this. You see right now, corners?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those corners, if you had a significant amount of gold, you would see it in those corners right now.
Yep.
Okay? Oh, and not that I can't see.
I don't see anything.
I don't see anything. It's looking pretty good in terms of recovery at this point. See how I cut it down to about half of what it was before?
Yep.
Super good. Same thing. It reaches there, then at the tip, just this goes.
Okay.
Now, this is where gold is in here. If I rotate this pan like this, where everything's trying to move that way,
Mm-hmm.
gold's going to lag behind. Right there.
Okay.
With clean water, put it in here. Gold's right there. Freeze off, that's where you grab the pan.
Good.
Tip it so it's down over here.
Okay.
Strike it this direction. You can see that stuff just flowing away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gold. Yeah. That looks like it might be gold. There.
At the very top.
Yeah. That's where it'll be. Take a magnifier here. This is where the illuminated magnifier comes in handy. You got a fair amount of silver in your gold?
Not that we've ever known. You gotta test it for that.
Magnet there.
So this is behaving a little differently than that.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect this to be more sulfides.
That's
and
what
be
we've
more gold.
been told, like a calcium pyrite maybe, or
Yeah, there's some yellow flash in there.
yeah.
Okay. Now you can take this.
What's the Spanish word that they call for the pyrite?
Pirita.
Yeah.
That's for iron. Now, what can happen, if you have larger particles of gold, they could have just run right down that surface and wound up right there. And that's why I mean that there could be foods like that.
Ah, yeah.
Okay, so I can do that. You want to wash that out carefully. Now, see, I got something else over here. I got this microscope.
Sweet.
It's not as good as the other one, and it's not a good microscope to begin with, and then that other one's not that good. But there is whatever the hell it is up against camera now. So, see that right there? That behaving like gold to me. Okay? It looks a little light colored, but it could be from silver. Now what we're going to do is, as Eva suggested, we're going to do a magnetic separation to see if anything just disappears.
May I look?
Yes, please.
I got better eyes than you.
She does.
I have
Vastly better eyes.
significantly better eyes than you. Not to mention, I can see things in natural light. We got gold right up to the crack. We got some pyrite. They do that.
Now, in my opinion, all that's gold, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what? Quarter of an ounce or more?
Yeah, by your measurements. And yeah, that definitely looks like copper when you get under a more natural light here.
Okay, so that appears to me like these tailings are running somewhere between a tenth and a half an ounce to the ton. Gravity recoverable gold. What did I use? A gravity technique. Right? That pan is a gravity technique. Okay.
And yes, use the magnet on that, dude.
So that means that with a higher efficiency gravity separation, you might be able to get that. Now let's quickly do the magnetic separator here. So can you get my little pen microscope off of the,
Absolutely.
now when you're doing a
I'll be
magnetic,
back at the computer in a minute, folks.
you cannot touch. See, I got it tilted there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
no
so
touching.
that you're not rubbing it.
Right.
You can see there's like two different kinds
Yeah.
of material there.
Yep.
That band, that band.
Okay.
To me, that looks like gold. That looks like pyrites in terms of just the way it's behaving.
Just behaving. Okay.
Yeah.
And to my eye, I would say that it looks like gold and kelko.
There's your
rather than
gold.
iron.
Okay.
There's your pyrites is what I'm seeing right now.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and dribble the water
Once
out.
you learn how to do this panning technique, you use this technique to tweak your table.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, and also, your table is a standard Willfleet type table. Okay. There's another kind of table called a wave table.
Okay.
The people at Mount Baker
Baker. Yeah.
have kind of a combination table
Yeah.
where it's got a Willfleet deck,
Yep.
and then at the end you just have that little ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
That's more of a wave table.
Got it. Okay.
See, and that's doing different things. Again, they take it all the way to the end.
Yep.
I would suck off before you get there.
Let's get there.
You know?
Okay.
Now let's get my pen mic. And I have, here's one here. So let's take a look. What we got. It's also useful when you're panning out, you want to go over the ripples. It does make a difference.
Okay.
I tested it.
Okay.
But also, if you do it the same way, you'll know where the stuff's supposed to be. Sometimes it can be hard to find.
Sure.
Right now, it's pretty easy. Now let's take this. Do 1/1000th of an inch. And do that. Those, similar to what we had over there, loose.
Oh.
See what I'm saying?
Okay. So what's that on your chart?
I think 2 1/1000ths is about 550. I mean, 1 1,000 is about 550. Remember, 0.001. 0.0099, 550. 0.002 is about 270 or more. Okay,
That's the gold.
that's gold. Now, what I want you to do, both of you,
Mm.
alternate, because both of them, look at it through there. Use this.
Okay.
Notice you got to have the light come through that gap right there.
Right. Okay.
So use it that way.
Okay.
And then you can also look at the other stuff. Yeah, I presume that's scalp fire, right? It's pretty yellow. But I'm going by that behavior. Okay? So, somebody try that. So measure those particles. Let's see. Having fun?
Oh yeah.
It's a good time. Are you ready to party?
Brian says save the number 2s and number 1s and test smelt the number 2s and test the tails. Yeah, we're doing.
We're going to do a bottle roll on the various things.
I see how quick and easy that was.
It is. It's gonna take some time getting used to the measuring part of it, though.
You have to press the end against the surface.
Right. So each dash is a
Thousandth of an inch.
thousandth of an inch.
It's a minimum increment between the lines.
So the little grain I was looking at was 3 of those. So 3,000.
3 thousandths of an inch. Okay. Takes up 3 of them. It would be 3 thousandths of an inch. Yeah. The bigger lines, the ones with numbers next to them, I think it's every one has every other one, or just every one.
Camera.
I think they have longer lines with numbers and then shorter lines without them.
Correct.
10 divisions between the ones
Is
with
that,
numbers.
I was going to say, the 10 between each number.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
So you're counting, Gary? How many dashes do you see between each number?
Yeah, that's 10.
10?
You
Okay.
can't do it that way because the light can't hit it. Turn it. Or the light
There you go.
going to make it a lot easier to see.
Tilt it forward a bit.
It looks like most of them are taking down.
Mm-hmm. 1.5, 2 divisions.
Honestly, most of them.
1.5 lines.
The smallest lines.
Yeah, that is one.
Okay. Now, does that look different to you than that stuff there?
I can look at them.
Let's shine.
Which,
The
Top.
the bottom.
Bottoms.
do your eyes allow you to observe the shape in detail? Does it look like, say, pieces of glass or porcelain that have been broken, as opposed to pieces of metal that have been bent? And you know, you're
Okay.
looking for malleability versus brittleness.
Okay.
Sulfides are brittle.
Sulfides are brittle.
With the exception of galena, which is lead sulfide, it can be somewhat,
Got it.
but metallic gold is going to be malleable. Okay? And in larger particles, sometimes you're looking at a rock, you see a big chunk of something yellow, you want to scratch it. Okay, take a needle or something to scratch it. If it's gold, it'll gouge like a lead sinker would. If it's pyrite, you'll hear a scritchy sound and it'll powder.
In the gold area where you're describing,
Yeah.
it looks like I say gold and it looks like glass particles.
Yeah.
In the pyrite, more looking supposedly pyrite area, it looks a little more mixed, and it looks like a bunch of darker color, like sulfide.
Now, the glassy particles are probably quartz because they float real well as we're playing around with it. Some of them probably drifted back over and we're never really got fully cleared away from it. Okay? Now, they've made a little illuminator that fits on these things. I've never had real good luck with it. Okay? It's got a little bracket, angles in there and everything. It works okay. But I prefer just to use a flashlight. Okay.
Flashlight.
Yeah.
Flashlight, I can see.
It's a lot brighter. It's a lot easier to, change batteries, things like that. It doesn't take special batteries.
Yeah, let's see the gold looks more rounded to me.
Yeah.
The little balls
Yeah.
with, texture.
Mm-hmm.
And then those are
Another way you can check pyrites if you have enough of them to do it with, just put it in the spoon and heat it. Heat it till it glows red and cool it back down again. Gold won't change. Pyrite will oxidize, it turns to rust basically. So pyrite, changes when heated. Gold does not.
Do that in a well-ventilated area.
Yeah.
It stinks like sulfur, like burned matches.
Well, not only that, but we could have arsenic in it. But it would be nasty.
I did my first roasting experiment on my last trip, and I was coughing bad.
So
I got a wind change, and it came towards me, and I was like, oh.
what do you think that makes when you breathe it in?
Some type of poisonous gas.
Sulfuric acid.
Sulfuric acid. Yeah.
Sulfur dioxide, when it combines with water, makes sulfuric acid.
Yeah.
So you're breathing sulfuric acid.
Okay.
This is
That's why.
undesirable.
That's why.
Absolutely. It is not good to do that. And tell everyone, little one, to let us know if I'm not speaking loud enough or anything. Look, have them comment to you, and then you can let me know. So anyhow, you see how easy it is to get a good idea of what's in there. Now, if you had gotten rid of half of that stuff, and you did another pan, and it's only got half it, you could see that. Okay? So once you get the assays back on this, you can say, okay, this is roughly X number of grams per ton. Okay? And then you can now do a quick, rough analysis. And how long did that take me?
A minute.
A couple minutes. Of course, I was talking to. It takes typically for me about 3 minutes.
Okay.
If I'm just cranking them out. How much did it cost? My time.
Yeah.
That's it. See how useful this technique is. See how small a gold it can recover.
Yeah, that's pretty small. It's really good.
Anything smaller than that, it's going to be really, really difficult to get with gravity.
Okay.
Okay, so you take this. Okay.
I do have a sample of our actual gold concentrate that I handed off. You want to look at that?
I want to look at the gold concentrates first, just the stuff that comes off the table.
Okay.
Got some of that?
I do.
All right.
Dry or wet?
I can do wet for this, no problem.
Okay.
You got both, I'll take the wet for now. If the dry is more useful.
Okay.
Now the sample of tailings that they brought, you can see it's a little bit damp. So any weight is going to be a little inaccurate. We took 10 grams of this, ran it through the microwave a couple of times, like a total of a minute, then weighed it again, and it was now at 9.5 grams. So they can now say, well, if I got something that looks like that, it's about 5% water. And so if they need 10 grams, they just go 10.5. Piece of cake. Now you're going to be much more accurate. You know, stuff that you pull out of the tailings pond as you're doing it, say this is like a normal sample moisture content, that's what you need to then weigh and dry, and then you can get a good idea. Matter of fact, we should do it with this stuff right here. We will in just a minute. Start a new page on your thing right there. Wow, this stuff is stuck together good. Starting to oxidize a little bit, literally cement itself together. Nothing strange about that. Nothing at all. Now, is this the material that you were catching and you're trying to get as close to just pure gold as possible?
No, I do have a sample of that too.
Okay.
This is just straight #1 concentrates everything I could capture. So it's gold line and probably 3 inches of
Heavies.
heavies.
Now, there's my standard sample size. It's going to be a pain in the ass. Okay. Because
We didn't want to make it easy.
you want to make it what it is.
Yeah.
You want to simulate what you've got. We're going to have to. Little one,
Yes?
can you go check on that button?
After I put my shoes on.
See if it's finished. If the controls on the furnace are looking weird, just turn it off and then on again. Now, because this stuff tends to stick together, you got to mechanically break it up.
Got it?
Okay? And that's what I'm doing. I'm taking in here and feeling where there's little heavy spots. Now, sometimes you can remove a lot of weight from your heavies by gravity separation if you got a lot of magnetics. Brian, who's probably watching right now, his works the other way. Almost all the gold's with the heavies. With the magnetics.
Okay.
So when he does magnetic separation, all the gold, like
Goes with it.
95% of the gold goes into magnetics.
Interesting.
Man, is that real easy or what? So there's something called a
And
magnetic
yes, Brian
separation.
is watching.
Pardon?
Brian is watching.
I thought he would be.
He recommended that y'all build a big or kiln like Mount Baker does, like Mount Baker has.
An ore kiln
Yeah, just for
to roasting? Okay.
For roasting. So that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Of course, always recommend getting as much easy gold as possible first.
Sure.
If you can do it quick and easy.
Yeah.
Be right back, folks. I gotta go check the furnace.
Something like this. Notice it's not splashing. It's getting liquefaction. That way the difference in densities can allow that gold to settle in the pot.
Okay.
Now these guys on the table, did you get the tablet? Just show them
Yeah,
what the gold line
absolutely.
looks like. I'm going to show you what the gold line on their table looks like. And this is going to tend to be inefficient because of all the real high density material there. Now you know it's important, right in the middle of the reference. That's unconscious at this point. But it's best to do the same each time so that it always winds up in the same place relative and stuff like that. Makes it feel good. Know where the gold's supposed to be.
So you wanting to show the gold line?
On the table itself.
We put it in slow motion so that it doesn't focus all the way, but it shows the line.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yes. Really old. Looks to me like that's a little bit lighter color here.
Not yet.
I'd be able to if this is like, yeah, we're dealing with a high density medium here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it makes it harder for the gold to separate. Less than ideal. My suspicion is either got a lot of gold crystallized in the sulfides, losing a lot of gold.
Okay.
Okay. Rotate it here. Get back here, being careful not to swish a lot. The gold should be. Done yet?
Yes, I got it in my hand. Did you write down the weight on?
No, I forgot. There you go. See the gold? Yep.
All right, well, I'll write down the weight on this one. This one's a little
There
guy.
you go. That's gold.
Here you go.
You see all your heavies.
Now, yeah, we're going to look at the size of those gold bars.
Okay. Nice purity on that.
About 4 or 5 times the size of the patch potatoes.
Correct.
And yet this is 160 pounds a day out of 5 tons a day or something.
20 tons?
20 tons a day. Getting 160 pounds of this.
Mhm.
And for that free gold, looks like this is only 5 times as good as the other stuff, as the table. That doesn't surprise me, but it's not good. It shows you how much more money you can make. You figure out what's going on and figure out a way to deal with it.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Exactly. So now, let's go ahead and take a look at these particles here. Where's the flashlight? Where'd it go?
Coming.
Very small.
Yeah, we do that. Fine too.
Okay. How do you look? It looks to me like the gold in your concentrates is smaller than the gold in your tailings.
Which is a good sign, though, isn't it? Because that means that we're getting a better separation on it.
No,
No.
you're losing a lot of gold. Okay, let's do a mass balance on this.
Okay.
Okay. So for every 20 tons of
Oh my
ore,
gosh. Dude, it's so small.
okay, so for every 20 tons of ore, you're losing X. Getting 160 pounds of concentrates, which is 6X, something like that. Does that look like you compare to the other?
Oh, weird.
No, I mean in terms of the amount there. Less than 10X, right? Less than 10 times what was in that previous. But this looks to me like about 6 or 7 times as much gold as was in the previous pan
In the left hand, yep.
with the tailings, okay?
Yeah.
So let's be really rambunctious. 10.
And
Okay. That's 10 times as much gold in one sample size as there was in the other.
Sure.
But that's from 160 pounds as opposed to 20 tons. So, we'll pick a number. I think that stuff in the tailings was running more than 1/10 of an ounce to the ton. Okay. 1/10 is just an easy number to deal with.
Okay.
Okay, so that'd be 3 grams, 3 grams per ton. This is running. These, I would say that's pretty reasonable there. Okay, we have 160 pounds divided by 2,000. Okay, it's 0.08 tons times 30 grams equals 2.4 grams. Okay,
2.4 what?
grams per ton. Actually, 2.4 total grams. On the other hand, if you have 20 tons times 3 grams per ton, you got 60 grams. Where's your gold going? See what I'm saying? Now, you've got those assays in process.
Yeah.
Okay. Tomorrow morning, call them up, get on them a little bit. Say, dude, we're here with the expert. We need those numbers, you know? And it may be that they just haven't been typed up yet. It may be that they've already got them. They just haven't sent them to you yet or whatever. I don't know. They were supposed to have them Friday, correct? Okay, so they should be there or real close to there right now. But do you see why we need to know what those numbers are?
Yeah.
You know, that's a really, really important thing to find out. So, say, this is why we have to have quality control checks.
Brian suggested it might be over grinding.
Overgrinded?
Yeah.
See, one of the problems you can get in a ball mill especially is a coarse gold particle doesn't like to get out. In a ball mill, you've got this horizontal tube, and it's got to climb up that wall to get out. So, if it's a big particle, how does it get that high up? It's not easy. Remember what I was saying about possibly you're getting a lot of gold in your ball mill?
Camera.
Exactly. Now, let's get a sample of the actual rock itself. Let's take a look at that. Okay. Is rock around?
No,
Rock butcher?
no.
looking at this rock, is that pretty much what it looks like in general?
Yeah.
Okay. Notice how little iron's standing there. Is it in the camera, little one?
Yeah, bring it up a little more, dude. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. See how little iron staining there is there?
Yeah.
This would tend to be what's called low sulfidation. In other words, a whole lot of pyrites put in with it. And it's also not very well oxidized if it does have a significant.
There are times where they get to be like a pretty purplish material, and they like to grab that too.
This one right
Yeah, a
here.
little bit more like that one. But a pretty substantial amount of the material would look like that.
See a whole lot of oxidized pyrites in here. Where's the purple one? Got a little light.
Yeah, it does.
Show you where to buy these things. I get them by the half a dozen. 6.
Yeah.
To buy.
Yeah.
Okay, now here what we got. This looks like a geode.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially it is.
Okay.
Okay. What you've got is, my eye looks like quartz crystal. It's not big enough for me to really tell that well.
There are a lot of course.
Yeah.
This is really common.
You got crystals. How do you know it's quartz? I'm not disagreeing. It looks like quartz, but how do you know?
Just because we've been told.
Oh, I shall show you. Real simple. There's lots of things that can form crystals. Okay? However, of those things, you've got certain gemstones and quartz, which is harder than a knife blade. Okay? Things like limestone, dolomite, stuff like that, even feldspars, they'll scratch. Now,
On camera, dude.
if I'm scratching it, now you can see there's something forming there, but it feels to me like that's just stuff breaking into pieces. Now you take a look at it.
You could ask me. I'm the crystal expert around here.
See some hexagonal lens too, and that's typical of quartz. Now, there's some places there, it looks to me like there's some steel from the knife left behind. Again, it's extremely diagnostic. Here we have another thing. Now, you could have, these would be quartz crystals, this could be calcite. Okay. Don't be afraid to do everything. When in doubt, give it a scratch. That did a much better job. Look there and you will see the steel. It's not scratching the rock is taking steel off of the knife.
Oh, yeah.
See? That's quartz.
Can I see since I know what light?
Yes. Right here.
I'm the crystal person.
So, I say, that's one of the quick field tests. Now, the other field test is some dilute hydrochloric acid. Okay, I forget the exact concentration. It's like 10 to 1 or something. Put that on limestone. If you put it on dolomite, it's going to fizz a little bit maybe. But if you gouge with a knife blade, powdered dolomite fizzes pretty well.
Okay.
Okay, and that's diagnostic of dolomite as opposed to regular lime. A
Got
lot
it.
of people will call it dolomite limestone. That's perfectly legit.
Okay.
But it's a magnesium calcium carbonate instead of just
So
pure
is this your
calcium.
most rock or your?
That's your ore.
That should be our order. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a quick test you can do in the field.
Dude, stop in there.
You should have a little bottle of hydrochloric, and you should have a knife.
Nice.
You want a knife that you don't care about.
Okay.
Okay.
And a piece of unglazed white ceramic.
Unglazed white ceramic. Okay.
The reason for that is ceramic is aluminum oxide. I'm going to give you another form of aluminum oxide, sapphire.
Ah.
Okay, So when you rub something against unglazed ceramic, it grinds off a fine powder.
Okay.
That color, also diagnostic. It's called a streak test. For example, if you have a silvery, brittle type mineral and stuff, okay, and if you rub it against a streak plate and it goes gray, it could be lead sulfide. If you do that and it goes red, it's probably expected or hematite.
Okay.
Iron.
Okay.
Okay, these sort of things. And again, this is all written down in places and easy to find on the internet.
Okay.
So when you look on the internet, you know, they have these things like mineral identifiers. What's the hardness? What's the color? What's the streak? Is it brittle? What kind of fracture does it have? Does it break in particular angles? You know, that's called fracture. Is it conchoidal? Does it break like glass where it's just got those weird shaped curved surfaces?
Mm-hmm.
You punch all that stuff in and it'll give you a list of, sometimes like, that's the one. Okay? But by these different things, the old timers also used what's known as a borax bead test.
Okay.
They would take a bit of, do you know what kind of wire they used back then? Was it like platinum wire?
No idea, dude.
Now you use nichrome, like a heating element. Oh, like it's in that furnace.
Okay.
Okay. You make a little loop at the end, and you take a torch, you heat it up, you dip it in borax. Just regular borax. We got like we use in the flux. This is basically boraxo minus the water crystallization. It's just heated until it's nice and dry inside. Okay? You dip it in there and you get a bead on the end of your nichrome wire.
Okay.
Then you take that bead and dip it into some powdered mineral that you're trying to figure out. That borax will dissolve minerals. That's why I use it in a flux. It'll color the bead in different colors, depending upon what it is it's dissolving.
Right.
That's diagnostic. You know, that allows you to say, well, this crystal will give me a green bead and that hardness and that appearance, but this other mineral has that hardness and that appearance, but it would give me a red bead. Boom, you've now eliminated. See? This is what the old timers did. People don't realize. That fire assay like I was showing you out there,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, been around for thousands of years.
Right.
I think the Egyptians used to do it.
Well.
Do you know, little one?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. The Egyptians would do fire assay.
They also used carbonated livestock pee to leach metal.
Wow.
Extracted metallurgy with pee.
I'll piss on
Pissed on that.
it. But anyhow, so that's the kind of thing.
Well, you see, it makes perfect sense because when you're dealing with a base metal like copper ore, and they had copper, urea.
Ah.
It uses a leach for copper.
Oh yeah.
Here's that
Fermented chemicals.
gold line in there.
Just saying.
See? I picked that up for I forget where it was. I say, to me, this looks like crack appearing quartz. There's a lot of people looking at it, ain't shit in there because of the low sulfidation event. As you're putting down quartz and gold and not nearly as much pyrite.
Okay.
But quartz, gold, and pyrite are different minerals. They can be in the fluids in different amounts.
Okay.
I had some quartz a guy brought to me. Supposedly it was from Baja, California.
Okay.
It looked about like that. It was a little grayer.
Okay.
Okay. It looked like that mineralized or less. 40 ounces to the ton. You know, that would be what, 1,200 grams to the ton?
Wow.
And it's like, it looks like crap. You cannot trust the appearance. It can be extremely deceptive. You have to test. Now, if you take rock like this, finely pulverize it, and pan it, assuming that most of the gold is gravity recoverable, you should be able to detect it down to a fraction of a gram per ton. Okay, easily. Same process we just did. Those results we're getting, when I was looking at the tailings, it's like, that's ore. That's ore grade look to me.
Okay.
So, first stratagem would be some kind of a gravity separation. You've already got it crushed. You know, it's already running around free. Might as well try and snatch it. Okay? Like that sluice video. Let me go get that for people here and show them.
Grabbing this real fast.
This is the sluice ripple pattern that we use at our mill. We use a wider piece of mat. And this is grabbing down to that size. Okay. Would you agree that was like a thousandth of an inch?
Yeah, not even one line, smaller than one line.
It'd be less than a thousandth, absolutely. Okay, I would agree. It's the stuff in the tailings. Oh yeah, this should be able to snatch that, no problem. Okay. So, this is why when you go back, you take your pants, take the expertise. We're going to teach you how to do this. It ain't that hard.
Okay.
It takes a little bit of practice, and we'll do it tomorrow.
Okay.
You get good at it, and then we'll do other stuff. Then the next day we'll do it again.
Sure.
Because it's really, really important to be able to do that. Since it does work, this allows you to test that fast, where you need to, when you need to, as many times as you need to. Really, really important.
Okay.
If you can do that, that's a tremendously powerful tool.
Okay.
Where would be the top places you want to do that?
Well, first thing I'd like you to do, say you got a hammer mill before the ball mill, right? Okay. You need to take a good representative sample coming out of the hammer mill.
Okay.
And pan it, but also have it assayed. Okay. You need to take a sample coming out of the ball mill. Have it assayed, pan it. Okay. First thing you may be doing is you may have a huge pile of gold in the ball mill. Thursday, I've got a friend named Warren. He's got to be in town around midday anyhow. So he's going to come over here, and he'll stay here while I go to the cardiac rehab thing. He's a really knowledgeable guy. Of the two of us, he's probably more knowledgeable in many ways than I am. But our experiences overlap, and they're, one weakness is the other guy's strength and vice versa. Okay? So he'll be able to work with you guys and keep the education going while I'm gone.
Okay.
But we want you guys panning while you're here at least, half a dozen to a dozen pans a day.
Okay.
Okay?
Fantastic.
So that you've got to get that muscle memory. Because when you're in Nicaragua or Belize or Honduras or wherever, you can't just, hey Keith, could you look over my shoulder? No, I can't do that. You guys have to be able to do it on your own. Now, one of the advantages of this too is you can use it for ore grade control in the mining end of the program. You can buy little impact mills.
Mm-hmm.
They make them as small as like a mighty mill, which goes on a grinder.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
It works, but it's really not designed for very much stuff. Okay. But they make these little ones that have like a 3 to 5 horsepower little gasoline engine and belt drive and like that. And don't worry about running it through the mill. Close off the outlet, put the stuff in it, grind it up, it's all in a blender, then leave it milling out well, and now you can pan it. How long would that take to do in the field? Not very long. You could be working that working phase of the mine, and you can take a sample every couple of feet, and you get a result every 5 to 10 minutes.
So that's what they're doing right now, but their method is So
With the cow horn thing.
with cow horn, yep.
Yep.
So they take a sample, they put it on a slab of granite, and they crush it with a hammer until they get it to a fine powder. Then they put it in a bullhorn, and they basically are panning it with a bullhorn. And if they get a flat, the line of gold, I think I can show you a picture.
Yeah.
Then that's material.
Yeah.
That's material that
So you
they.
bring it over to you.
That's material that they keep.
Or people want to see this. The first time I've ever seen it myself. It's not done around here.
Yeah, I want to know how that's done. I want a good video of
That's
it.
pretty much.
And a cow horn.
This keep, no. See which of this can be.
Yeah, you.
It's a race.
It's a race.
Is it Jared? Is it Brandon? Who's that? They're punching the numbers.
Oh, you got it?
Oh my God!
Are you on the video or you
Video.
want the picture?
Yeah, video would be great.
So this is what it'll kind of look like. Let me see if I can.
Can
Okay.
you see that little one?
All your blondes and then another looking for gold.
Little one, can you see this?
Not very well.
Is it too close, too far away?
To
Only half in the frame.
doing.
I see the gold though.
Yeah.
I just want to see it in action so that if I ever get a horn, we can try it.
And you see, those are larger particles than what I was. Okay. So I would love to see a side by side, you and best expert you have with the cow horn,
Okay.
go at it head to head.
With the hammers going.
Yeah, and see which works better and what size gold you're getting. Again, you need these little to do that.
Okay.
They use this to get a pretty, they get the general sense of like, okay, what kind of material are we working and where?
They'll love that little impact. Guarantee you that. Because that's the
That gives
Like
you
part
part
of
of a good idea of like, what does that look like?
what they're doing there is the texture, the material of the horn is slowing that movement of the gold down.
Yeah, and it's slow.
They settle it down there, and then as they let it dip, everything else moves faster.
Correct.
You know. But yeah, I'd love to see a side by side on that
Yeah.
because that's something that's one of the reasons why I learned how to do this. Because people said, "Hey, I've seen guys do this." And I said it was one of those things where I knew it could be done because I had people who were saying, look, I saw a guy do it. And I just didn't know how to do it. But this works pretty good.
There you go.
Now, I bet you they don't put a 2-pound sample in there.
No.
No.
What's doing there is again, just the interaction with the surface
Right.
slows it down.
So if they get that gold streak on there, then that's
Yeah.
material that we process. If they don't get any gold flash, then we don't process.
I'd love to see head to head what
Okay.
happens. And also, just because they don't get that flash doesn't mean there's not a whole lot of really fine stuff.
Sure.
That's, you know, because your gravity separator, it wouldn't matter.
Sure.
Now I want a cow horn.
We'll bring you back one, Eva. Shit. I'm serious. We'll bring you back one.
But anyhow, so
They're really good with it. I mean, they're
Oh, yeah.
really good. I mean, they'll tell you like how much is in a bucket or a ton, and based upon like the lab studies we've done.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool.
They're pretty close.
they're good.
They're really good at it.
Exactly. Little one,
Yes.
I'm going to ask a question here. What brand is that little intermediate size impact mill that's, you know, like about $2 to $3 grand? Forget what it's called. See if one of the people knows.
What is that?
My knowledge of the
Yeah.
small gas driven impact mill.
That's another good picture of a lot of the material.
This is your oxidized iron pyrites there. Okay. And another thing you can do with your panning technique is you scrape that stuff off, put that in one sample, take the other stuff, see this red stuff? Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah, we can't see anything on that screen at all, so don't bother showing us.
Okay.
Does it show?
You may have to do something with the wavelength.
Too blurry?
Dead white. Bright white. Here.
Oh.
How about that?
Yeah, well, that's better.
Turn down your brightness, Jared.
You just
Oh,
did.
sorry.
Yeah, you're gonna have to watch
How
the
about
mic.
How's that look?
Yeah, I forgot.
That looks good.
Okay. So, using the pan, you can easily take this rock and chip off those areas with the more limonite type material, the iron oxides, and you can separate the red stuff. You can use a mortar and pestle if you don't have too much, and then pan the different things and say, okay, when I see a rock like this, what in particular is holding more gold, if anything? Okay, it may be you want to look for that red, not the limonite. Might be.
Yeah.
It's cheap to find out once you have the technique. You know?
They've always, the experts we've been talking to are like, okay, whatever you're saying this yellow mustardy is.
Okay. The technical term for this mineral here is goethite.
Goethite?
Yeah. It's a combination of limonite and hematite, but basically what it means is oxidized iron sulfide. Okay? A lot of people will call that limonite.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Limonite has mostly that color. And it's pretty darn difficult to tell the two apart. That's why I said the technical term. Most people you run into are going to say limonite. And what they're talking about is the oxidized iron pyrites that look yellow-brown.
Yeah.
Okay? But you know, that's not technically the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got a lot of fairly clean quartz. It's going to wear the crap out of your impact.
Here's like, I don't know how well this
They go there.
Yeah.
Looks good.
specs.
So it's good. Yeah, that's some good stuff there.
Yeah, it's visible gold on that quartz. Very pretty.
But how much of it do you have? It's just a little later usually.
Yeah.
I wish we had trumpets.
My brother talked to someone a couple of weeks ago that in a rock like this, just chunks of gold through it. Yeah.
This actual rock doesn't make that. I zoomed up way.
Yeah. But anyhow, let's see. What else do we have? Oh, here's something else. And again, we're going to be we're going to go over all this again next few days. This, the sample. My friend Lauren, who I mentioned, he had standards of gold and silver in cyanide. Okay. This is silver and cyanide. This was gold and
Can't see the color at all there.
Can't see the color at all?
Way too much light. Yeah,
About
thank
that.
you. Perfect.
Okay. This, we started with 30 parts per million of Eco Gold X. Good. This is what we actually recovered from our ore with our solution. And then I diluted it 50%. Diluted it 50% again. This is running at 3.75 parts per million. So you can see it's still easily detectable. It seems plausible that you might be able to use what we call KD3. Okay, it's a solution that was made from some guys to do some stuff, and it's like, oh, if that's going to precipitate it out of a fluid aqua region, it seems to do it. Okay, pretty good. And this is called a spot plate. Okay, they're cheap. This is what, like $2 a little one?
Yeah, they're like $2-3 and you can buy them in bulk packages.
Yes. And this bag is unglazed ceramic.
Huh?
Okay. Anyhow, let me show you what I'm going to give you. solid rock.
Ooh.
I'm going to give you this. This is KD3. Yeah. In this, see the little light dropper over there? Okay. All you do is take half a mil of your clear solution. For that, maybe it's a centrifuge or something like that to get a nice solution. You put it in that well. Then you put 1 drop, 83, and let it evaporate. That's what happens. By looking at the colors, you can get an idea of what it is. I don't know if it works on the cyanide solutions yet. Okay. You gotta get it clean, otherwise, this is weird because this was a standard, laboratory standard made up. So something weird's going on here. But I want you to try that. If it works, you'll have an easy way of testing your solutions. Can you do this? Yes. Okay. Okay. And so that will be highly useful if it works. You'll need to get a spot plate. That works best in like a little dropper bottle. But strangely enough, somebody gave me. And so I have a dropper bottle for you for KD3.
Okay.
But this cap can leak, so you don't want to transport it. Then
Okay.
put that in a Ziploc.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Now here's another cute little thingy. We just happen to have us a pan of interesting looking stuff. Now, you're sitting there going, well, what is that? Well, we get the assay tomorrow. Whatever. So what you do, I just cut these out of black parts. Don't have the. So you take a little bit of white glue on it. Really, really high tech and complicated. Way too much. Okay? Just need a little bit. Okay. Then take this, stick it in there, rub that around, fill it up. Guess what? There is what was in the pan.
Sweet.
And then you take white pen, mark on the other side what that is.
Okay.
And so, right there.
Okay.
But that way you can record pan results as it actually is. You can
Okay.
see the particles as they really are.
Right.
And then you can compare that to lab assay, and then you can sit there and go, okay, this is what I'm looking at here. What is that? You know, oh, that looks like about a half ounce a ton, 1 ounce a ton, whatever. You will have the ability to compare stuff in your pan to the actual assay from the lab. And you can create a series of reference cards, basically.
Got it.
Okay?
Cool.
Told you I was going to teach you all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff.
that's a cool trick.
No, I haven't either, because
You like this
in
one
the
here?
United States, in developed countries, they simply don't use the
Nice looking rock.
panning and stuff.
Yeah.
They use laboratories.
Right.
And while the laboratory results are more accurate in general, they're expensive and time consuming. If you were to send one of your samples from your mine to ALS Global and waited for an answer, how much would that cost and how much time would it take?
Well, they said $175 a pound to ship it. So
Damn!
yeah,
Yeah.
from where we're at.
So you're looking, even if you did most of the crushing and splitting yourself, you're looking at $300 an assay
Yeah.
and a month or two to get a result,
Right.
as opposed to getting something, and I like to call it actionable.
Sure.
It's not precise, but it's good enough so that you can make a decision.
Right.
You know, what do I do with this stuff? You're not going to be able to, do a lot of decimal places or anything. You're not going to be able to do a mass balance with precision. You can say that's order, that's leaching, that's gravity, that's, oh crap, that table's not working too good right now. Or that table's just not working good at all. I'm surprised that that stuff was that fine.
Right.
Yeah, because notice the stuff in the tailings was coarser.
Right.
That is not what one would expect. One would expect that the tailings would have the finer gold.
Interesting.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I guess so. I just assumed that the tailings are heavier because they're bigger particles.
Well, if they were heavier, wouldn't it be easier for them to stick to the tabletop and go on the hip?
Oh yeah, I
line?
guess it would be.
Yeah, they're more resistant to movement.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
I don't know the physics of what's going on.
Is that something that's like an anomaly that if we did a few more tests, that when it's weird like that, does that say, okay, let's do a few more tests? Just
Absolutely.
The same thing?
Even if things add up, you still want to repeat stuff. Okay? You want to set up a series of regular testing so that, first of all, you become a lot more knowledgeable as to what it's supposed to look like. But also, in case something goes cattywampus, those tables are rather dependent on the exact stroke that it does. If you had a bearing that's wearing out and now that table's getting a little bounce to it, it's going to affect it.
Yeah.
It may be something that they notice right away, or maybe something that may not notice right away. It may send larger particles out the end where it keeps the finer ones. We don't know. But let's say if something changes, you can detect that change as quickly as possible.
Camera.
So
There you go.
by doing this constant monitoring, you will observe any changes in real time. And if something looks like it's going sideways, you can address it immediately. You may stop your production line. One thing that might be happening is you're sitting there, let's say you've got a table, all of a sudden you see this big iron line on there. There's a lot of magnetics. Well, yeah, because your impact mill's coming apart.
Sure.
See? There's things like that. Here's another fun thing they do in the real world. Most on small scale they don't do, but it's an interesting thing. If you've got like a big gyratory pressure, a big line where they dump the whole trucks in and stuff, they got these big giant bearings and thousands of horsepower, and it's $30 million installation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't want to wear the bearings out to where you're damaging the machine surfaces. That's going to be really, really expensive, right? On the other hand, you don't want to tear it down before you need to, right? Because that's going to be real, real expensive too. So you want to know exactly when to tear it down. Now let's suppose the engineers say, you want to tear this down at between 15 and 10% left on the bearings. Okay? Let's suppose that that's the criteria that the engineers say that. And these big companies have really smart engineers. Okay?
Yeah.
They can afford them.
Right.
So what they do is when they make the bearing, it's like a big bushing bearing, the outer 10% of that bearing, or 15%, will have something in it that's not in the rest of it, like, say, silver. Okay? And no, it's not visible. Well, they're doing oil analyses on a regular basis. When that silver shoots up, they go, okay, we need to schedule that bearing replacement.
Interesting.
Notice you got a 5% variance there.
Yeah.
So as soon as they see that, then they'll do a confirmation test. Go, yep, we got silver in there. That wasn't a lab anomaly.
Okay.
And then they go, okay, we need to schedule that. for rebuild.
Pickens
What?
says that K&M makes a capable impact mill with a
There you
gas
go.
engine.
K&M. That's right.
Okay.
Where is it?
All right, right here.
Yeah. Do it on the front page.
Okay.
Okay, that's my note. But anyhow, so they now know how much time they got left. They can get all the cranes and heavy lifting equipment and everything else lined up. They can schedule. I mean, this is a multi-day job. Okay, that mandrel down there weighs like 50 or 100 tons. And they got hoisted out. So first they gotta stop production, clean out the pocket where everything is, then they gotta do whatever they need to do to pull that mandrel out and place those bearings.
Yeah.
But they're not guessing.
Yeah.
Because guessing is really, really expensive.
Right.
So they've come up with a way not to guess. What are they doing? They're sampling cheaply, regularly, often. That way they see something as soon as they need to take action. Do the same thing, but with a small guy, you have to be cheap and easy. You know, just can't do the same stuff that the big guys can.
Right.
So you have to come up with an approximation that is a heck of a lot cheaper and faster.
Yep.
That pan seems to be doing a fine job of giving you actionable intelligence. Okay? It's quick. Now, yeah, it's quick, it's cheap. Those are the Stansport 10.5-inch gold. Okay? You get them at Sportsman's Warehouse. They cost about $6. Okay? Perfect. Decent cake, you know. As a matter of fact, if you want, you could order them here while you're here, and they'll be in Boise when you get home.
There you go.
Piece of cake. Just like we can get on the thing tomorrow, get a hold of American Science and Surplus, and get you a dozen of those loops on the way.
I did order some loops.
That's it.
Yeah.
Those metal ones are the best.
Because it's so easy.
Those metal ones are the best loops. Yeah, the ones we got.
Just do your thing. Lots of extra batteries. Because you use it, they wear out, and they wear out real fast. Yeah, I say these things are less than $7 each once I get them. I get them cheap in quantity because I will loose them, I will lay them down, and so I got 3 laying around here right now. You know? So that's a Stansport pan. Now, what's critical the critical part of one of these pans, this is a full factory one. A lot of these small gold pans will have a lip right here, they'll have a vertical edge, you know, like, you know, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch high. You can't use those. Okay? Something about when you're doing the tappy thingy, the water hits that edge, sloshes back, and it's like surf. Just agitating that stuff.
Okay.
This kind of slides up and slides back. So all I know is this kind of angle is what you need.
Okay.
This size pan allows me to take that size sample, which is about 1 kilo,
Okay.
dump it in there, and work it efficiently.
That's about the size of the material. It's about 1 kilo.
Yeah, for
Okay.
this pan,
Okay.
about 1 kilo. You know, it's measured in liters, of course. Got here. So what is it? Yeah. So it's a 1/2 liter. You know. Obviously, this sample of heavies would weigh a lot more than the sample of Taylor.
Sure.
But for right now, we're calibrating. Because again, you take what you see in the pan against the assays for now.
Okay.
We'll get you rough calibrated, but every time you come back, bring back some samples. Okay? And that way, you can get more and more data. By taking those cards and using those to record the actual pan results, you can then, you know, quickly develop the ability to estimate sizes. And think about something like old geezer wine, just somewhere. Oh yeah. There's something else. You're definitely going to want for that process. Here. I know I'm going to put it in here for you guys. See what it looks like. A white
A white what?
white pen. Yep.
Yeah, you
I
have.
got another
Oh,
one.
this one here with the blue. Must be right.
No, they're pure. The whole pen is white, including the ink.
Oh.
They sell colored gel pens, like white and metallic colors.
To write on the back of the black
Wow.
cards.
A
Yeah.
white pen to write on those black cards.
Ah, roger that.
Nothing else shows up like that.
Okay.
We got ours at Hobby Lobby.
Okay.
Just for jollies, those are big beads if you were to get fire assay. I mean, that's running 2 and 3 ounces to the ton.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I can't even see those damn things without a magnifier. And
Yeah, I can see it. There's 2 of them in there.
Yep, I can see them easily.
one of them's about 2 milligrams and one of them's about 3 milligrams.
Yeah,
That would be 2 and 3 ounces per ton. Those would be the beads you get.
okay.
See how?
Your gold beads would be even smaller than those.
But anyhow, I just wanted to show you guys how small
Those
the
last
results
six
are. You know, you got the
And that's from raw material from war, the fire assay, or is it from
this was actually from some
Okay.
checking it. Let's see. Here is an assay ton of rock. This is the size sample that you would fire assay.
Hi, Chris.
These would be ritual. Everything else. Imagine how small.
Yeah.
Imagine when you were back those little, hundreds of years ago. And they were actually weighing these.
Oh no.
I don't know.
Aliens.
No, I mean, they recorded people, in the 1800s that were actually weighing. You'd go to Butte, and they've got in the museum there, they have an assay office set up, amongst other things. It's a really cool museum over there in Butte, the mining museum, because they've got an old town, and they've got like the apothecary, and it's all set up with all the old stuff.
Wow.
So it's set up like it really was.
That's super cool.
Yeah. The only reason I have this is just to show what one assay comes.
Okay.
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 So
And the gold bead would actually be significantly smaller.
in most cases it would be, yeah.
See.
So now this is called a snifter bottle.
Yes.
And these are a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Okay? You ever try to use one?
Yeah, that's how I got this sample right here.
Yeah.
This is from the snuffer bottle.
Kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me show you something a whole lot better.
Okay.
I'm going to show you the good stuff. Now, remember we were talking about the gold line. It will take this, okay? This is a really cheap ass vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
$35.
Yeah.
This is a piece of old rubber hose.
Yep.
This is standard Berlin wire flask.
Okay.
Put a big washer on it just for weight.
Okay.
So when it's empty, it doesn't fall over that easy.
Right.
And then this is for 2 holes in it. Okay. Okay. Works kind of like a snuffer bottle, continuously. I can take this, turn that on, start sucking stuff up in here.
Brilliant.
Or like on your table.
Yeah.
You just sit there. See what I said about sucking off that line?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's show people what we were talking about. Just wait there. I'll bring the whiteboard over here. Where to put the thing?
Oh, there.
Pens? Yep. There you go. Okay. Now, I don't know if you're the one who did this, but here we have a diagram of the table. Now this is cross section, and what you're seeing is gold line here above the heavies line. Okay?
Yep.
Now, it would be perfectly reasonable to assume that that's where the vast majority of the gold is. You'd be wrong. Okay? The water's washing down this way. The gold is in a layer from where you can see the edge, goes underneath the heavies line. Okay? Trust me, I played this game before.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So what happens when you suck this gold off there, take it off right here,
Mm-hmm.
and as it keeps going, more gold will come out from under the heavies. It's clean. You can suck it off. So if you take and do a series of vacuum nozzles, you know, say you use something like 1/4-inch tubing and put it on a frame that's not hooked up to the
Camera.
table, so it's
Right, so
It's
it's not
not shaking.
shaking.
okay. Then as the table's moving, that thing is just sucking up gold. Okay.
So, yeah. So a line. You can, have pictures of that here.
I don't know. That's not the line page. You need to get a drink real quick.
Go for it. I'll pull this out. So,
You might want to just put the camera somewhere and move stuff in front of it so that you actually.
In this thing.
How many people we got? Only 12?
Just
Yeah. As a producer, you suck.
we had it up earlier.
I know.
Keep going with your explanation. I was going to play a picture to see if
That was one thing I would do. Get pretty clean gold. Okay. So you see, you've got this gold line here. It's pretty clean to here, but it's going to extend underneath this heavies line. Okay. It's going to come back a ways. So when you suck that off, more of it's going to come out. And you'll be able to get a much cleaner product. Because with this table especially, as it gets to the end, it goes over a lip, and then all this stuff tends to blend together.
At the bottom of the lip.
See how this
Yeah.
is getting more chaotic? Okay? Well, if you suck it off there, you don't have any of that chaos. to deal with.
never kind of mixed.
Exactly. Okay?
Okay. So you're coming in and just all along the table wherever you can see a good line.
Exactly. Just don't pull back to that one. It's going to tend to suck it towards you a little bit. So you
Yeah.
stay out here in this area.
All of this.
Yeah. And see, those particles there are much bigger than what we panned just now.
Okay.
Now, which reminds me of something. Let's see what we got on this side. Let me get this out of the way.
This was an material. It almost created like a little bit like a oily look. And then
If you have something like that, you can always just stuff a little bit of it out. Get a good clean sample. So, that's the sort of thing where you can use that vacuum tube as a sampling device. Get a sample of just that spot on the table. What's right there when you saw, well, we got this little thing coming off here. Sample just that.
Okay.
And you say, what the hell is that? Oh, it's cobalt. Nickel. You don't have to get children in Africa to mine it.
Indonesia.
Now, another thing to play with tomorrow is panning technique. Once you get it down to where there's very little there, it's fairly flat. It's being interfered. You want to really can't. Yeah, roll it up. Yeah. Larger particles, larger cells are surface.
Right.
Yeah. It's an extremely useful tool. Okay. I'll get you guys practiced it.
Okay.
Because this is one thing I wanted to see was, is it going to work for you guys? It's like, yeah.
What the
The panning.
panning? Okay.
Yeah. It's never useful information in terms of getting gold. What I'm going to do is take some of your heavies, have to weigh them and stuff. What I want to do is I want to pan the heavies in small batches, tap it up, and suck the gold up.
Okay.
See if I can tap any more up, like that.
Okay.
And then take the remaining heavies, put them in a separate thing, and then we'll assay that.
Okay.
You know, and see how much is still in it. That's going to be time. But keep practicing.
Sure.
Anyhow,
I'm excited.
let me bring a couple of samples in here just to show you.
Okay.
They're too big to go out there. You turned off the furnace, right?
Yes.
It says he'll be back in a moment.
Yeah. So here we have gold. This is from Montana Beach. Essentially quartz. There's some calcite in there.
No, that is from top of the hill, dude. What are you talking about?
This one's from top. See the nice quartz crystal
Mm-hmm.
lining.
Mm-hmm.
Right light there. Light problems.
Right. And then see this texture here?
Mm-hmm.
This is typical of solutions, what they call the boiling zone.
Okay.
As they're coming up from depth, there'll be a certain pressure at which because they're like at 300 degrees centigrade. They get to a point where the pressure is so low that it'll start boiling. That gives you a different texture.
Okay.
Right? Notice there's not a whole lot of sign of iron in here.
Yeah, this would be considered not oxide.
For both sulfidation. It never had much sulfides.
Well, sulfides. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have any sulfides in it.
Okay.
It just doesn't have any iron.
Got it.
This, on the other hand, would be a high sulfidation.
Right.
This is one of the. This is running like 30% iron. Okay. Notice the different colors.
Yeah.
Okay. And we can just call this go type. It'd be good.
Okay.
We will say that's kind of type, that's type, and they could be correct. Not in all of them. So it's more like type or something.
Okay.
Okay. This shows a phenomenon where you had a previous rock, possibly vein, then a different event occurred. Shattered the original rock, placed more vein rock. Got it. This is also very common to see. Broken rock, if it's re-cemented, is called a breccia. All it means is broken, like flat.
Yeah.
That's all it means. It's shattered and then re-stuck together. The exact rock was, how it's stuck together, probably breccia means broken, stuck together. Right? Very, very common to see in vein systems. When you have hydrothermal solutions that are replacing gold, it's natural for us human beings to think, well, this happened. No. It might have happened over millions of years. It might have had one event happen 1 million years ago, another one happened 3/4 of a million years ago, and another one happened 500,000 years ago. They're even farther apart. Because I don't know how much welding or things like that you've ever done. Where does something break? Where it's already weak. Well, it broke one time, it'll probably break again. They're similar cracks. So the cracks will tend to open up in the same places. Hydrothermal solutions can be under so much pressure that literally fry the rock apart. You've heard of hydraulic fracking? Yep. Nature beat us. So when you're looking at a vein or a mineralized zone or whatever, look at the zonation in it. You say, okay, where is the gold? And this is where you guys use the cow horn. I think the pan is probably better.
Yeah.
But the K&M crusher is going to be very helpful because when they do cow horn, they probably use about this much rock.
They're probably 3 or 4 of those that they crush down. You're probably taking like a handful of rocks with this.
About that much rock or this much?
Yeah, half cup.
More like that. Okay, so 1/2 cup.
Yeah.
And I'm using 2 cups. 4 cups. How much is a liter, little one? 2 or 4 cups? 4 cups, I would
4
think.
cups, dude.
Okay. But 8 times the sample. Statistically, you're going to get better results.
All right.
Okay? So, all else being equal, this fact that you can do 8 times the material is going to make the results more consistent. So, that's it. But that K&M crusher is more important than the pans. Because it allows you to get a lot of rock crushed up quickly, real fast.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, when they're hammering it, if they're hammering it on a piece of granite, gold would be stuck in granite. Sure. Are they sucking it up with a vacuum? Probably not. That makes sense. It's understandable. Gold tends to go to the bottom, and then you grab it with your hands. What are you going to tend to miss? You want to be consistent. Pulverize it, clean the impact mill out. Easiest way to do it if you've got it is compressed air.
Okay.
Just blow it.
Yeah, which we got.
Yeah. Let's say that works great. And I think the K&M has an output screen. I just hold a little plate over it because that's going to be a trap too.
Okay.
What
mesh size does that K&M typically grind to?
I've never used one myself. I've seen a guy use them. They were right on surface, pretty easy to bust up rock and stuff.
Yeah.
What would you say they were grinding over there at the the eye brake for bedrock thingy job? Was that K&M putting out?
I do not remember, dude.
It's fairly coarse.
Yeah, it was fairly coarse. I mean, it was not as fine as your little impact mill.
Yeah.
It's not as fine as Block.
But by closing off the outlet, you're throwing stuff in there, it just stays in there.
Yeah. Okay.
And that way you're not losing much in the way of dust.
Okay.
And it's like by welding something across or taking the screen off and just welding that solid.
Okay.
Now, you're not losing dust, you don't have the cross-contamination problem.
Sure.
Some with a bunch of holes in it is a great way to get stuff stuck. So you want to be smooth on the inside. Care about the outside, you want smooth on the inside. And that way you can clean it out, get good sound. You're grinding it, turn it off, wait for it to come to a stop, open it up, and clean it out. Who we got? Maybe one. Hello? 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 Not interested, thank you.
Solicitor.
I hate computers that sound like a real person.
Oh, it's getting bad.
Hi there, my name is Sandra. I think you're sexy.
Peter, you need to just open the phone and close it. If it's somebody
I
important.
don't know, it said Arizona. How do I know who it's not one of my viewers?
True.
You know, when these guys called,
If it's important, they'll call back.
I think yours actually did come as Brandon though.
Good.
But yeah, let's say so. With a little K&M, always take the same amount of stuff. In the case of rocks, weigh them. You know, you're going to want to bust them to a certain size. It's better to do it on a steel plate. Okay? And, you know, steel plate with just a wood bounder or something, then you sweep it up nice and clean.
Yeah.
You know? And then run it in that mill. I think they take up to about an inch.
Okay.
You don't have to bust it up too much, but one of the things that will happen is that used to be on this.
Sure.
Right there.
Right.
So if you look at a smaller version of that, the softer material will tend to grind up smaller, and the softer material may very likely have a lot more gold.
Okay.
So you tend to wind up, you were smashing rocks on steel plate, not carefully cleaning it or whatever, like you guys with the granite. That stuff may be hard to get off.
Right.
You know, they're not like sweeping it into something, are they? They're just doing it with their hand. Exactly. That's not consistent. It's not complete.
Okay.
You know, you want to take your complete sample, grind it up, split it down after that, and do it. You know, you can also blend it to a certain extent too. Like if you had a piece of fairly stiff plastic sheeting, not really, you know, 20 mil tarp.
Yeah.
You know, you can put the material in the middle, roll it one way, roll it another, center it, roll it one way, roll it another, do that and blend it. And then you can, you know, you cut it in 4 quarters, and you take the 2 opposite quarters and put them one place, and the other 2, you blend them more and do it again.
Okay.
Would you recommend using your?
Oh, a splitter is a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes you don't have it. Here's another. This is a fun trick. Let's see. Yeah. A little bit fine. Might work. You take surface with a little texture and you tap it. Finer stuff tend to stay. Well, of course, your stuff goes downhill.
Right.
So if you're like out in the field and you want to screen something, so you can. Don't have my screens. Take some of these textures, piece of plywood, something like that. Drop the stuff on. You'll see the big stuff just rolls right off.
Okay.
You can tap it a little bit on the back. Yeah, the medium stuff rolls out. You're like, well, fine stuff.
Okay.
I have done that numerous times. I'm like, oh, I really want to screen that down, but I don't have any screens. I could do it. Okay. You know, it's just a handy trick. There's a lot of little things where if you know the trick, you know, it's like mechanics. You know, how the hell do you do that? Well, you need to have the X89.5 and the 6, you know, and slide it right in there, pops right out. I guess it does.
Right.
You know, sort of.
Right.
It's like sometimes I had a guy one time who was rebuilding a drive line for me. Okay. All he used to pull all the old U-joints and stuff was a hammer.
Mm-hmm.
He had it apart in a minute.
Oh, wow.
Bam! Bam! Like this. They're just popping them out.
Wow.
Impressive.
And you do it enough times, you
Yeah. I mean,
figure it out.
he does it hundreds of times a week, sort of thing. That's what he did, was rebuild drive lines. But it's that sort of thing. You just know how to make it work. You can do it. You see it on the internet all the time on YouTube. You know, there'll be some genius guy doing something, you know, some construction guy, like guys that are just throwing sand up, you know, and the other guy catches
Catching in the shovel.
Yeah, exactly. It's just amazing what can be done with practice and the knowledge. You know, I say, okay, if I have use this tool in this way, it'll work. Then I get to practice to do it. But yeah, sometimes you want to screen some stuff. Just don't have any screens with it. Okay, well, you can do it. And it'll screen pretty well. It'll screen well. Depending upon the texture and the angle. You can get some real fine powder that way. It's amazing. Right? Chuck and Yakima watching? Yakima. What's up with that?
Oh, cool.
He
That's
had
right by our hometown.
Oh, really?
What's the Moses Lake?
Okay. Yeah, he had a piece of old plastic barrel. And gestured like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's impressive.
I like that.
Yeah. That's it. Sometimes you'll be in a situation you want to bring it. You don't really have the right tools. You can place it. Okay. Anyhow, what do you think in terms of a few more tonight? You want to start first thing in the morning? Probably tonight.
Wrap up the live stream. Yeah, let's do that, and we can dive into some more stuff.
Okay. Okay, everybody. Anyone got some questions for the live stream? Come on.
Wade Slave says he's got the same curtains, but his use red tape.
Same curtains of red tape.
Well, he's just more flamboyant.
Voice down. That boom mic gets turned way up and
Well, I know, but I've been keeping my voice up all night. It's kind of hard. Yeah. Turn down the mic.
down a little bit anyway.
Okay.
Gold and silver are doing great, and they're both still on sale. If you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Where's that button?
It's in there.
This little round one here?
Yeah, the little guy. It's 0.37 grams.
Yeah, well. I'd say that
Anyway.
better.
That one came from your.
We're pretty much going to be ending the live stream here, guys. So, just to give you an idea what's going on. The yo-yo here has students visiting from Central/South America, a remote, low-tech, zero-tech corner of the world that has spiders. But not as bad as Australia. Okay, so at least we don't have to nuke them from orbit. Anyway, he's going to spend the week teaching them all his little tips and tricks and filming all kinds of cool stuff. And gold and silver are still on sale. I know that's hard to believe when you look at the price of gold, but people, if you have not backed up the truck yet, now is the time to do so. And in case you missed the news, the Pope is dead, and the media is having a meltdown because President Trump and Melania dyed actual eggs at the White House for Easter, while apparently the rest of America was dyeing potatoes. Yeah, for reals, they said potatoes. And apparently, even though those eggs were all donated, small and medium eggs donated by farmers, the media claimed that the taxpayers bought the eggs, and that's just the way it is.
Does anyone have any comments or any questions in particular on anything right now?
Yeah, you come sit here, and I will manage your. But anyway, that's what's going on.
Okay. By the way, according to Warren, he has a relative, like a cousin or something, who has a friend, and the friend was out in the field, and a big sow grizzly bear decided it wanted to get intimate, and
Actually, wanted to eat dinner.
he emptied his 44 Magnum and wound up with a dead bear laying on top of him. Now that's just not a fun day.
Both leaks we got.
That's probably escaped your ball mill.
Yeah.
Quite frequently, by the way, when you clean out a ball mill, you'll find a lot of
Well, good picking.
Really?
Making a mistake and learning how to do it right it really sets it in your brain.
In Tucson.
Yeah.
And
So, say any
any
questions or subjects at this point? If not, we can go ahead and call it a night,
in one of their cabinets.
or I can answer any questions somebody else has, whichever
That's awesome.
y'all want.
That used to be our one store before we moved up here. Now my buddy
Oh.
Tucson does all the buying with them.
You still here, honey bunny? If you are, then you better cue it up.
Oh, getting down there, it's gonna cool.
I wish the little thing over here that has a list of how many people would allow you to scroll through the names. It would be nice. Tell us about that silver. Okay. Well, now,
That's awesome.
I just put up a video today on processing the film. It goes in pretty detail. But I've got
Yeah, that really is.
I love this picture.
4 beads
Yeah, it's not as good
From that,
Mr. E.
batch of
No.
3 kilograms. Now, once we did the initial stripping,
also got over here.
we had a fair amount of a medium gray silver sludge, and we took half of it
Yeah.
and just put it with a basic flux, which was borax, soda ash, and silica, and then poured it
Those are really cool though.
in a cone mold. And we got this little rascal, which is like 9 grams. And then the other one, we had a litharge flux,
Yeah.
and it smelted down
These guys
to this,
are mine.
which was only, I think, 6.5
This
grams or something.
beautiful example.
And which was surprising. I would have thought I got more with a litharge flux. Okay, flux. Then there was floating material in the buckets that did not want to settle afterwards. I mean, it wouldn't settle at all. So I got some flocculant and treated it, and it settled down. So I dried that, and then we split that. Now this is the bead from the stuff where you did the standard flux.
Where are you?
And this was the bead from the litharge flux. Now, it's a bit counterintuitive why we would be getting more recovery without the litharge. We could be vaporizing some silver. The furnace has been giving us a few little grease. But Eva suggested that maybe there's something else besides the silver that we're recovering. But I don't know of any other metal besides silver that's going to be in the X-ray film. Now, I haven't really researched it much, but anyhow, it's we recovered like 29 grams. Well, actually not more, because that last one is a lot smaller than I expected too. So let's see, tink and tink. Okay, let's see what all these come together. Let me get the scale. Look.
Probably, there's a good amount of gem material in there. This, one of the finest pieces of petrified wood whoa, you don't normally see it looking this clean.
Yeah.
Normally you see it like we've got it down in Arizona, where it looks a whole lot more like gel.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Little one.
Yeah.
Guess what all those beads weighed?
What?
20.00.
Did you get the sprouted one, dude?
No,
Well, you gotta get the sprouted.
that's not from the batch I was doing. That's from something
okay.
else.
What's this one?
That one is a mystery.
So anyhow, it added up to 20 grams from 6 kilograms of material. Let me get the calculator. The calculator around here somewhere.
Smoky topaz, labradorite. These are 2 halves of a fossil.
So now we had 3 kilograms, so that's 6,000 grams, divided by 454 grams per pound.
That is that particular type of flash that is also
Now, 3 kilograms would be 3,000.
hybridized
Duh.
by front arms.
3,000 grams divided by 454. So 6.6 pounds. And we've got 20 grams divided by 6.6. 20 divided by 6.6. So I wound up with 3 grams per pound, which would be 30 grams per 10 pounds, which was what we were told we're supposed to get. So,
I've never seen in the flash.
could be good. If working with clean galena, assuming it has huge silver content, what flux mixes would you try? That would be something for Eva. Let me see. She's busy right now talking to our guests. Little one? Little one? Do you know what kind of flux combination for pure galena with high silver?
I would start with the basic flux I have because it should not be a high acid ore. That
Well,
should be a perfectly.
it's going to tend to be pretty reducing, isn't it? I mean, because it's sulfur. That's going to grab the oxygen off of the litharge.
Yeah, it
So do
should.
you have any idea?
Technically. No, the flux should be fine the way it is. The soda ash, borax, and silica sand should be just fine.
That's what Brian is saying.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar. She does most of the assay stuff. She's
I
read
mean,
the assay book
The
cover to cover.
the standard flux, if you will, of borax,
Boy, that camera
silica,
is,
and soda ash should be just fine.
camera is really
Well, there's
some
really
kind of
no. No, it's because of the angle of the light tonight.
better, but yeah, probably due to the angle. Anyhow,
Right.
that's safe. That's my best guess then. Soda ash, borax, silica sand. Oh, yeah, Brian, that method seemed to work pretty good for stripping that.
This is some funny stuff.
Yeah, but if you do that, Brian, you're going to get a lot more foaming and stuff. You could leave more room in the crucible. You know, you could use washing soda too. That's basically hydrated soda ash.
Feel the weight on this.
So, anyhow, anyone else got a question? Yeah, Brian, that method I was using seemed to work fine. If you had shredded film, it would do it pretty quick.
I was gonna say, have you ran any of this material before?
You could do a lot.
No, I picked that up from jump. We were helping out a buddy that was
Anyone
setting up
else?
some mine portals, and he said, go ahead and go through the dumps, and well, several 5-gallon buckets later.
Yeah, I say whenever you're using a hydrated material in your flux, it's gonna foam and churn and stuff like that. That's why you like to use soda ash and anhydrous borax instead of
This is one of my
washing borax and washing soda.
elsewhere too.
You could also take
On mine.
either of those two and heat it up enough to drive the water off. But I have a feeling that would be pretty messy.
Over there in Butte. There's a vein there that's running
Okay.
6,000 ounces per ton.
Anything else?
Yeah, they're trying to get mine.
This is the same type of sample rocks we get at Stick Knife.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I love this stuff.
Well, little one, it looks like it's probably about time to shut down the stream.
Okay. Just showing off some of my rocks.
I know. I heard.
All right, guys.
Happy prospecting and keep it safe
prospecting.
out there.
Keep it safe.